That's what I heard it too. That's why he should. That's why he on arrest him. That's why they he'll go to certain. That's why he said he'll go to time
Okay. I'd like to call the July 18th, 2022 meeting of the City Council for the City of Lake City to order. If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation given by Councilman Jeffrey.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this council and the opportunity you have given us to serve citizens of this community. As we begin our deliberations of the issues and the business of our city, we ask that you will guide us in our deliberations. We further pray that all of our decisions will be in the best interest of our citizens and pleasing in your sight. We pray that you will protect our first responders and law enforcement. We further pray that you will watch over our military service men and women wherever they are, as they place their lives in harm's way to ensure that we are protected. These are all blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Oxford, call the roll.
Mr. Hill.
Here.
Mr. Jefferson.
Here.
Mr. Sampson.
Here.
Mayor Witt.
Here.
Mr. Dial. Mr. Coberline.
Here.
Chief Butler.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Lake City Council has opened its public meeting. Since 1968, the city code has prohibited any person from making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or becoming boisterous while addressing the city council. Yelling or making audible comments from the audience constitutes boisterous conduct. Such conduct will not be tolerated. There is only one approved manner of addressing the city council. That's to be recognized and speak from the podium. As a reminder, persons are not to openly carry a handgun or carry a concealed weapon or firearm while the governing body's meeting. We have minutes from the July 5th, 2022 regular session.
We'll approve the minutes, Mayor. Second.
Motion and second to approve the minutes is published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of the agenda. I don't have any amendments to it.
Move that we approve the agenda. Okay, Mayor. Second.
Been a motion second to approve the agenda is published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comments, I don't have anybody signed up. And we don't have any consent agenda. Presentation, discussions, possible action. Tom Godfrey, Florida Gas Utility, who's gonna do a presentation for us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tom Jeffrey. I'm the General Manager and Chief Executive Officer for Florida Gas Utility. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Are they going to be able to bring up the presentation that I provided?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm here about what I'm sure is everyone's favorite topic, high energy prices. So, yeah, there it is. Thank you. So as everyone is well aware, you know, the price for energy, gasoline at the pump, your electric bill, your natural gas bill, et cetera, is high. And we all know that. And I'm here tonight to talk about that, what's causing that. What you'll get is some foundational information from me, and you also will hear a lot of opinion from me, because a lot of this is speculation as to why our prices where they are. Okay, and also I'm here to talk about some ways to mitigate those higher prices, which is what I think you really want to hear. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So rising energy costs and inflation, as we know, are affecting customers all across this country. It's been estimated that the typical family may spend as much as $4,000 more or less for their energy in 2022 versus what they spent in 2021. And again, energy includes gasoline at the gas pump. It includes your electric bill. As you may or may not know, about 75 to 80% of the electricity made in this state comes from natural gas as the fuel source. So if natural gas prices are high, your electric prices are going to be high as well. What's basically happening is we have a supply-demand imbalance. Okay, coming out of COVID, demand is increasing. Businesses are opened up again. People are traveling more. Businesses are getting back to business as usual. But our supply for energy, oil, and natural gas has not kept pace with that. And I'll explain a little bit as to why that is here in this presentation tonight. So nationally, energy prices are up 100 to 260% over the last year. And because everything that, the food in the stores, the items in Walmart, every type of business activity requires energy. Energy prices going up means inflation goes up. Okay. So in Florida, the average family can expect to pay between $3,000 and $4,000 more for energy this year. Fortunately, your power bills are generally a little bit lower than they are up in the Northeast or up in the Midwest or out in California. Okay. So next slide kind of starts to put this in perspective. We have it bad here in this country. So if you took, but worldwide, it's even worse. So if you look at key commodity prices and we index those back to January 1, 2021, so in other words, whatever the price is today, we assume it was 1 back in January 2021. You can see how the increases go. So if those lines go from 1 to 2, that's a 100% increase. If it goes from 1 to 3, that's a 200% increase. So you can see the major commodities for energy, oil, gasoline, coal, natural gas, all up over 100%, and natural gas has been up as high as 260, 280% over what it was back in January 2021. But if you look at those dashed lines, global coal is the gold colored line, and European natural gas is that red dotted line. It's much worse overseas than it is here. Okay, coal prices are up over 500%. Natural gas prices in Europe have been as high as 1,200% over what it was last year. But one of the peaks beyond that was over 600% increase. Okay? So why are we seeing these increased prices in fuel? Well, one of the big reasons is there's a war going on, Russia and Ukraine. And you can see what's happening in Europe. They're being squeezed on energy and prices are extremely high. Like I said, natural gas and coal. Okay? They get almost all of their, or a large portion of their energy needs in Europe come from Russia. Coal, natural gas, and oil. Okay? And of course, Russia's playing around with those as we speak, as you all know. In this country, if you can go to the next slide, what we're seeing is this. This is a slide about drilling rigs in this country and the price of oil, because they kind of move in tandem. So that dark blue line is the price of oil per barrel. The red line is the number of drilling rigs that are out there drilling for oil and natural gas. And on the bottom, this goes back to January 2018 up to the current time period. So back in 2018, 2019, when oil prices were around $65, $70 a barrel, we had typically around 1,000 drilling rigs looking for new supply of oil and natural gas, okay? Because it's correlated to price. They can make money when oil is at $65, $70 a barrel, okay? Then COVID hit in 2020, and you see everything went to virtually zero. And then we've come back from that. And prices for oil are now, as you've seen, recently up above $100, $110 a barrel, okay? But we haven't seen the drilling rig count come back. Now we only have about 700 drilling rigs out there actively looking for new supply. So there's not as much activity looking for new supply. And every day as we take oil and natural gas out of the ground, there's less and less of it remaining in there. It's being depleted. So it's essential that new drilling rigs are looking for new supply all the time, and we're just not seeing that. Now, what are some of the reasons for that? This is my opinion. You can share my opinion. You may disagree with me. That's perfectly okay. The current administration, the Biden administration, has not been a friend of the fossil fuel industry. They campaigned on that so that they were going to go after the fossil fuel industry, and since he's elected, they've done that. How, in what ways? Well, we've all heard about the leases for drilling, that the oil companies have thousands of leases that they don't use. Well, leases are just one step in a couple 100-step process to actually get oil or natural gas out of the ground. You need to do a lot of seismic investigation to see if there's actually oil or gas under there. When they buy these leases, they don't know for sure if there's anything under there. So they're buying them kind of speculatively. They know that a certain percentage are going to come through, but many will not. But in addition to just having the lease, you got to have a drilling permit from the federal government. Well, they're not issuing many drilling permits these days, okay? And then if you actually are fortunate enough to find oil or natural gas, and believe me, these producers, they're after the oil. The oil is the precious commodity, but most of the time when they find oil, they'll find natural gas. And natural gas is a very precious commodity as well, okay? So if you are able to find oil or natural gas in new drilling, you have to get it to the marketplace, and that's done via pipeline, especially for natural gas. You can truck oil, you can put it on a train, not very efficient, it costs a lot. Pipelines are the most efficient way to get these products to the marketplace. Well, this administration has not, their agencies have not approved any new pipelines in this country since 2021. So supply has been constrained. We're still being able to get about as much out of the ground as we have historically, but we need more than that because demand has gone up, okay? So we have a classic supply-demand imbalance, okay? Next slide, please. So in the past, this hasn't been much of a problem. This is a chart here on the left-hand side is a pie chart showing in this country how natural gas is used, and on the right-hand side how oil is used. And on the left-hand side, natural gas has changed dramatically over the last 10 or 15 years, okay? Now, power generation is the #1 user of natural gas in this country. And as I said earlier, in Florida, it's about 75 to 80% of all power generation is done through natural gas, okay? But power generation in the past, when prices got up where they are these days, they would stop burning natural gas and switch to coal. Okay? They would switch to coal when it was economical to do so. That took a big chunk of demand out of the market, and that kept prices from going up even more. Well, guess what? We no longer have many coal-fired power plants in this country anymore. Why? Because they pollute. They're dirty. They create a lot of carbon that goes up in the atmosphere. And so the policy, energy policies have basically been, let's get rid of all coal-fired generation and replace it with solar, wind, and whatever else we can find that might work. Natural gas works, okay? And we have plenty of it in this country. But right now, they no longer have that natural hedge of these power companies going and switching to coal when prices get high. They have an obligation to serve their customers just like you have an obligation to serve your customers with your natural gas distribution system. So guess what? When prices are up at $8, $9 per unit of natural gas, they're staying right in the market and competing for that gas just like we are. They'll compete with it if it goes to $10. They'll still buy it if it's $15 because they have to have it. They can't switch to anything else. There's nothing else to switch to. It's either generate electricity with natural gas, or you're not generating any electricity beyond what you can get from solar, and there is no wind in Florida. There's some nuclear. There's no hydroelectric in Florida. So we basically have 3 ways to generate power in this state. Nuclear, we have 2 nuclear plants up and running in this state. We had 3, but one's been shut down. Solar, and solar is growing, but solar generally is growing at 75 megawatts per shot because there's tax incentives to keep it at 75 megawatts or less. And we're talking about thousands and thousands of megawatt hours that are needed to serve Florida, especially in these summer months when we're all are using our air conditioning. Now, the oil sector does still have a natural hedge. Most of that is oil is used for transportation. It's gasoline and diesel. And when prices get up $5, $6 a gallon of gas, people make changes to their driving habits, which reduces demand, which helps keeps the price of oil from getting beyond what a normal amount might be. But again, we don't have that any longer in the natural gas sector. And so there's nothing to keep prices from going up. Okay, next slide, please. Another factor contributing to the higher prices is storage. In the natural gas industry, up in the northern part of the country where it gets really cold in the winter months, the pipelines were never built or designed to handle peak day needs. It's too expensive to do that. So what they have to do is they have to take natural gas in the off months, summer months up there, and put it underground in storage caverns, right where the market is, okay, right where the demand is. So in the winter months, they can pull that gas out of storage to serve their customers, keep them from freezing to death, quite frankly, okay? That gray band is the high and low of where storage has been in this country over the last 5 years. The solid red line and that dotted line are the average over the 5 years and where we were last year. The black line is where we are this year. We're down at the bottom of that range, which means those utilities up north have got to buy a lot of natural gas and fill up that storage before October, okay? Because that's when the heating season starts up north, it's October, November. So they are out there aggressively bidding up the prices of natural gas so they can get it and put it in storage. Without it, people could potentially die from cold weather up there if they don't have enough gas. So they're gonna pay the highest price for it. Next slide, please. So here's what we've been seeing. This is a little bit stale data. This is a little bit over a month ago. The NYMEX futures pricing. NYMEX is New York Mercantile Exchange. That's where all futures transaction prices for any commodity go through that exchange. This is where natural gas prices closed at the end of the day, June 3rd of this year. And you can see on the bottom, you got July of 2022, the month that we're in, all the way out to November of 2026. And what you see is in this summer period and through the next winter period, through about March of 2023, the prices were up about $8.50 per unit. Now, a year ago, we were paying $3 or less. So it's almost tripled in price, okay? Then it drops off starting in the spring of 2023 and remains relatively low price over the next 2 or 3 years in the $4 or $5 range. The little humps out there are the winter months because that's when the highest demand is for natural gas, again, primarily up north. And so you pay a little bit more for it in the winter months typically than the summer months. But the idea here is the high prices that we've been experiencing here in the short term and expected to see through the winter of 2023 go way down in April of 2023 and beyond. And so, you know, my opinion is that there's no reason for those prices to be that low unless this administration changes course dramatically. There's no reason why the prices will be down in that $4 or $5 range. We'll still have a big supply-demand imbalance, and those prices should go up. And we fully expect that they will, absent any change in course in this administration. A lot of people ask me, well, midterms are coming up. Won't that make a difference? And my answer to that is no. Midterms are Congress. The president is not on the ballot. All the agencies that determine whether leases are going to be sold, drilling permits are going to be issued, pipeline permits will be issued to build pipelines are controlled by agencies underneath the direction of the executive branch. So Congress has no say in any of that. So again, unless this administration changes course, I would expect prices to be up in that $7, $8, $9 range at a minimum going out until we get to January 2025, which is when the next president will come into office. We don't know who that is. It could be Joe Biden. It could be another Democrat. It could be a Republican. We don't know what any of their policies may be, okay? But we know that's the next point of change. So We don't really know what could happen after that, but we do have a pretty good idea of what will probably happen before that unless a major change in this administration takes place. Next slide, please. We have seen a steady march of these prices upward over the last 4 or 5 months. So if you go back to March of 2022, that red line at the bottom, this summer months and then through the winter months, the prices are only about $4.50 versus $8.50 that you saw on the previous slide. Well, by April, they'd gone up to $6. By May, they were up around $7.50, and in June, they were up almost to $9, okay? That was the peak that we saw so far, is over $9 gas this summer. Now, prices have come off of that a little bit. Why? Well, one of our major demand components is we export a lot of natural gas to Europe and to Asia. Well, one of the major export facilities suffered damage, and they're no longer taking natural gas. The entire state of Florida uses about 4 to 5 billion cubic feet of natural gas every day. That one facility used 2 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day. Almost half of the entire state of Florida uses. That facility is offline. I read articles today. Some say they'll be back online October. Others say it won't be back online until early 2023. Doesn't really matter. Prices have come down because a big chunk of demand is no longer there. And so now the supply-demand imbalance isn't quite as great. And we've seen prices come down. I'll show you that here in a minute. And if you go to the final slide, please. So this kind of brings all that information back to the city of Lake City, okay? So the red line on the top of this is a 3-year period from August of 2022 through March of 2025, okay? And this is your last 12 months of actual usage per month for your entire system, and it's just replicated 3 times for the 3-year period, okay? So obviously, as you can see in the winter months, it's when you use the most gas or you sell the most gas to your customers, and in the summer months, you use somewhat less, okay? There's a green solid line running through there. You've seen me present before about these long-term gas purchases at significant discounts. That's how much gas you have locked into those long-term contracts. But the price is not fixed. The price is whatever the market price is in the month when you get there, okay? So what we are here proposing to you tonight, and I'll start this by saying you don't have to take any action tonight. There's no requirement for you to take action here. But if you want to protect your customers from the potentially high gas prices, then we would recommend that you financially hedge or through a futures contract these prices for 25, 50, or 75% of your gas usage. It doesn't have to be those percentages. It can be any percentage you want, but for example purposes, those are the 3 I used. I've been recommending to our members a 75%, and almost all of them that have taken action have accepted that. And I propose to them that they can do this entire period from August 2022 through March of 2025. Or if they want to wait until the prices come down a little bit in April of 2023, you could start it there through March of 2025 and do 2 years. But we would recommend that it's prudent for you to take a look at all the information that I presented here, make up your mind as to whether you think that prices will continue to remain high through January or March of 2025, or whether they won't. If you think that the prices are going to come down, then you probably don't want to do this. If you think prices are going to stay high, then this is a way to reduce that cost to your customers. If that, in fact, is what happens, that prices stay high through this time period, by being able to lock in some prices that currently are below what we expect them to be when we get out later into 2023 and 2024. Okay? Now, as part of the package, you had some charts that looked like this that were dated back in June. Well, these natural gas futures prices change every minute of every day. It's a fluid market. So the price that I gave you then, that's long gone. So I have new handouts here as what the prices were at the end of the day on Friday last week, okay? Again, they're not the prices today. Prices have gone up today from this, okay? They change every day, they change all throughout the day, and so that's just the way that any commodity works, including natural gas. So I will hand these out so you can see what current prices look like. So these are the same charts that were in your packet, just with above the column that says NYMEX Henry Hub, it now says July 15th instead of a June date. I forget what date it was in your package. So as you can see from that June date, prices have come down some, okay? But there's still a pretty hefty decline after March of 2023. You see March of 2023 prices $5.96 and change. And then in April, it goes down over $1 to $4.82, okay? So what hedging does for you, if you look down in the bottom right-hand side, if you were to hedge at 75%, you basically would be locking in prices on 75% of your consumption. If you look at the very bottom there on the right-hand side, it says hedge volume, and it says 1,185,000, and it gives you a dollar amount, 6.3 million. That average price is $5.35 per decatherm. That's if you were to hedge the entire period here, okay? If you bought the other 25% as you go, when you get there, and the price is $9, then you see the overall weighted average price is only $6.23. And that's what hedging does for you. It reduces your overall cost of gas from what it might otherwise be. Of course, we don't know what the prices are going to be when we get out into 2023 and 2024. We expect them to be high, but we really don't know what they're going to be, okay? They could be lower than this. So if you were to do this hedge and you got a price at $5.35, but when you got out to October 2023, the price could be $4 or $3. Well, you're still going to pay that $5 price. That's what you've locked in. You can't get out of it. So once you do this, you're locked in. And so you're not trying to beat the market. You're not trying to lock in the absolute lowest price you can. As fiduciaries of your natural gas system, what you're obligated to do, I believe, is to try to ensure that your customers have affordable rates. Okay? And that's what hedging can do for you, is it can produce affordable rates to your customers for the cost of gas. Now, this isn't the only component of the cost of gas. This is where you buy it at. You still have to get it from where you buy it out in Texas and Louisiana and whatever to Lake City, and there are additional costs. So this isn't your total cost of gas, but this is a major component of it, is the actual supply cost. So you can do, like I said, a variety of percentages. You can ask us to run any kind of scenario you want. You say, hey, what if we did 60%? What if we only did from April of 2023 through March of 2025? You can do any of that you would like, and we'd be happy to provide that information to you. If you would like to make a decision tonight and move forward, then our recommendation is we think that a 75% of hedge volume is the appropriate level to do. And Palatka has done it. Mariana, Chipley, Florida Municipal Power Agency, which is our biggest member. We've hedged over $200 million worth of gas for them already. So they've gone into this big time. They've done actually a little lower percentage, but they're trying now to get up to everything being 75%. So this, we believe, is a good opportunity for the city to help contain the price of natural gas. Again, you're not trying to beat the market. You're not trying to lock in the lowest price possible, because no one can predict when that is. What you're trying to do is have an affordable price of gas for your customers. So with that, I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Anybody got any questions?
I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
So just looking at this head volume, it's averaging about $5 and say 30 cents, at least 30 cents. That's
Correct.
okay.
That's what the NYMEX futures contract prices were as of the close of the day, July 15, Friday. Okay. Today, these prices have moved up. That August price, last I looked, was about $7.70. So not 701. So it's moved almost 70 cents today, 10%. Okay. That's not unusual in today's market. It goes up, it goes down, it goes, any news that affects natural gas, the market is reacting to it, and it reacts to it very quickly.
Sampson?
Yeah, so my question's kind of in line with the projections. So looking at the projections from the June 12th to July 15th, it looks like when they change the top number, when that actual contract changes, they're just using a formula to change everything else.
No, actually, these are actual real trades done in the marketplace for those months. And determine where, yes. So today, people were buying gas for August of 2022, they were buying gas for September, they were buying gas for January of 2023, et cetera. So the NYMEX prices reflect actual trades that are made recently. And that's how the prices are determined.
Mr. Brown, has the staff made a recommendation? I know Mr. Dowell's unable to be here tonight, and I don't know if you.
Yes, sir. So what we looked at is, again, what the projected cost may be, and we're thinking we can see numbers as high as $10, maybe even higher. Our rate stabilization fund that we currently have for the city can't sustain that for 4 years.
Right.
So it would be our recommendation to move forward with this as well, at 75%.
Okay, that is my question.
There is one other thing that I neglected to say in my presentation, and it's here in my notes, and I just didn't see them. If you go down this path with futures contracts, financial hedging, okay, cash is going to be required to do that. And so when you go out and you say, hey, Tom, I want you to do this 75%, I'm going to come back to you and say the initial amount of cash that I need to do that is called the initial margin requirement, is going to have to be posted by the city of Lake City. And then anytime prices go down from that, you have to post additional margin, okay? So if you did the 75% level, we ran the calculations earlier today. The initial margin would be about $575,000. That's cash that the city would have to provide to me so I could make those trades for you, okay? For every 50 cents prices went down, that's another $600,000 that the city would have to pay. If prices went up, you don't pay anything, okay? But because prices go down, if they were to go down, you would have to provide additional margin. Now, what does that mean? So if you locked in at $5, just to keep it simple, and prices went down to $4.50, well, you agreed to pay $5 for it. So you have to make up the cash difference to the other party of the transaction who's selling that to us, okay? So you would pay a market price of $4.50, but you would have to pay the other party the additional 50 cents because you bargained to pay $5, not $4.50. Likewise, if prices were $8 and you bargained for $5, you're going to get $3 back from the other party. So that you're going to pay $8 market price for the gas, but they're going to pay you $3 so that you get down to the $5 that you bargained for. That's how futures contracts work. And that's why they need the cash, because they don't wait for the contract month to close, because then there's no incentive to pay. All right, so they make sure they have the cash up front so that you get the bargain for price that you want, okay? So cash is very important in this. And when, so like I said, the initial margin requirement would have to be paid before the trade would be consummated. And then if prices were to go down, we get a margin call in the morning at 8 o'clock. We have to make payment of that margin by 2 o'clock that afternoon. Now, we can cover that for you that day, but we need that money from you the next day, okay? And that's what all the other members are doing that have done this. So FMPA, I mentioned to you before, they've paid me almost $20 million in margin since they bought their initial. Now, today they got $4 million back because prices went up, okay? So, but that's how the futures contracts work. So it is a big cash commitment that you're making, okay? I just want you to be aware of that. And it's not optional to pay these margin calls. If you don't pay it, then all your future contracts are terminated and any money that you paid in goes to the other party. Okay. And that's how they keep everyone honest in that. Because people, think they're locking in at a good price, and as it gets closer, they're like, that's not a good price, I don't want to get out of this. Well, you can't. The market, it's designed so you can't. Once you make your decision, the decision's been made. So that's important to know as you're making this decision.
Okay. Council have any other questions? Okay, what's the recommendation of council?
I had a question about the actual rate. So I've noticed on the bills, the natural gas rates have gone up substantially for customers. How will this level it off? Will we be able to maintain a level similar to what we're at now? That might be for Steve.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do, is stabilize this cost. We're trying to do the best thing we can do to protect the future. We're trying to take the volatility out of the market as best we can. And in looking, years into advance, like you were saying, we may have to pay today, but when the market changes and we get into those colder months, that's when we're gonna reap it back. So it's gonna be a ride. However, as a gas customer, we went from 90 cent a therm to $1.40 a therm. So how much more of that are we gonna be able to sustain?
That's right.
This is the numbers he was talking about, us having to be, that we're able to do that.
Correct. So right now, my gas customers are paying, a significant amount more on their gas bill when they're getting their gas bill, and they were used to paying 90 cents, and now they're paying $1.40. This is what we're trying to mitigate. We're trying to hedge that so there will be consistency to it. There is, with anything, there's cost associated to it, and Don, I can see you cringing when we were talking about this just then. But if we do go into this market and it gets volatile like we're expecting, and it does go up to $8 and $9, then we're going to be saving our customers a pile of money. It is, and like Tom said, this is just a recommendation. As staff, we sat down and looked at it. We looked at the numbers. We seen what was happening. We talked with Florida Gas Utility. They're our broker. That's what they do, is broker our gas. That's their primary. So when we spoke with them, we said, hey, look, what do we see? Obviously, the NYMEX is showing this volatility is not going anywhere. How long is this war going to last? Cold weather's coming. We put all of those in there and said, okay, what can we do to put our best foot forward for our customers? Because at the end of the day, we're just passing the gas through, that we're just selling to the customer. The customer is the one that's going to be calling us going, what happened? How did we get to where we are? So this is basically just an option. It's not nothing that we have to do if you want to think about it, but it is a recommendation, and it is a way for us to your point, to try and lock that number in so that they don't get any, crazy prices in 6 months.
All right, y'all want to take action tonight, or y'all want to study it a little bit?
I'm worried about the volatility in the market as we look at it. I mean, that thing is rising rapidly, and we're not gonna see a new pipeline. I mean, not before January of 25, and even then you gotta build it and start. So the way this current administration is, they've built in the cost increase. It's going up. I mean, it's going up by design. So I would be for hedging it at the maximum amount, the 75%.
Okay, that's our resolution, Mr. Coberline.
Want any more discussion on it first?
Well,
Yeah.
what's the rest of y'all say?
Okay. I think we need to, go ahead, Mr. Jeff.
No, I was just saying, I agree. I think we need to go ahead and make a commitment. Like I mentioned.
Yeah, I would agree, and just hope that, by the colder months, that we'll reap some of this money back. So, I will make the motion that we, unless you want to make the motion, that we, lock this price in right now.
I think that's the resolution that should be.
Yeah, there's three things that I need that your resolution speaks to. One is, what term do you want to do? Do you want to start in August 2022, or do you want to start a little bit later, and how far out do you want to go? And we would recommend that you either do August of 2022 through March of 2025, or April of 23 when the prices come down through March of 2025. That's up to you. So that's one thing I need. The second is the volume. 75% is fine if that's what you want us to do. And you can see the column on these sheets that says 75% rounded. That's what we actually will try to go get, because These markets don't sell products in other than 2,500 increments, okay? So you have to be divisible by 2,500. All of these recommended volumes are that. And the third is, what's the maximum of what I call the strike price that you're willing for me to transact? I needed to know the maximum price that you're willing to lock in at. Is that $5.50? Is that $6? What is the maximum not to exceed price? Because I can't tell you what the price is going to be that I'm going to be able to lock in until we actually do the transaction. Okay, we're going to get the best deal we can for you, but I need to know a maximum price that you all are willing for me to make the deal.
What's the recommendation of staff?
625? Is that the recommendation? It's in the, if you look at the parameters in Exhibit A.
And there's two trades, I think, in that Exhibit A, correct? One is year-round, and I think that's the 625. And then the other is the incremental amounts you need in the winter months, and that's probably a little higher price. I don't remember if that's 650 or not. Or maybe it's the same price, I don't recall. I've looked at too many of these.
Well, when you look at August 21st, you look at April 23, like you're talking about that term, it looks like April to August. Normally August is a little lower than April. At least that's what it shows on these. So, I mean, I think we'd be better locking it in August of 22.
How carries through the winter months?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking carries through this winter. But I mean, who knows, man, if it hits 10, I was reading an industry thing today. It said they're projecting a possibility of $15.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to do back.
So,
So
if it hits $15.
if you were to do what this says, August 2022 through March of 2025, and these were the actual prices, that is an average price of $535, okay? Now, prices went up some today, especially in the near-term months, not so much in the out months. So today, probably closed, the average price for this entire period, probably $550, $560. Which is all good prices, quite frankly. And what that means, if you were to do that, and let's say we locked it all in at $5.60, that means if prices go to $10, for the quantity of gas that you locked in, you're paying $5.60, not $10, okay?
That's gonna be your, we call it that stabilization.
Yeah, and that's what we're shooting for, stabilization.
Right, that's what
Your
we're.
customers can afford $5 natural gas.
Hey, what would the cost be at $15 if we didn't do anything? Do you know what it would run out to on the bill?
If not, we probably haven't had so many customers screwed about that.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because
If we just say $1.40, you're probably looking at $2.50.
Okay.
That's just off the top of my head, don't hold me to that, but
yeah.
Okay.
So I think the parameters of, start August of 22 through the March of 25, at the 625, and then as the quantity, the 960,000 decatherms, that's what we were projecting.
Okay.
I don't have that with me, so
It's trade number one.
If I could, yeah. So trade number one and trade number two get you to the 75% hedge where you have 30,000 and then 42,500 in the winter months, okay? So trade one is 30,000 decatherms a month for every month, and then the second trade covers your winter months at an additional 12,500 per month. So that you'll end up in the summer months with 30,000 decatherms, and then winter months, 42,500 decatherms each month.
We flow about 1,000 through the gauge station. I pass about 1,000 a day. So that's roughly covering what's going through there now. So 12.
Well, in
Wintertime, I've seen it as high as 15.
Again, if you look at that chart, that's roughly 75% of the average winter usage and 75% of the average summer usage. Some months will be higher than that, some months will be lower than that, but we manage all that for you.
what's the advantage of trade two, just that we're buying at a lower rate on those off-demand months, or?
No, those true trades are done in tandem, okay? To get you to the total quantities that you need summer and winter.
Okay.
So the first trade, I think, is 30,000 decatherms a month for all the months, right? And the other is 12,500 decatherms a month for the winter months, for the each of the 3 years. okay? It would be October through March of each year. You would be buying an additional 12,500 decatherms each month for those months, so that in total you're at 42,500. 30,000 from trade one, 12,500 from trade two. And that's how we buy it in the marketplace. That's how the market sells it. Okay.
Okay, so the recommendation is trade number one.
Well, it's both.
It's both.
Okay. All right.
So it's the parameters on Exhibit A.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Carolina, would you read City Council Resolution number 2022-074?
A resolution of the City Council of City of Lake City, Florida, authorizing the execution of the directive to execute financial hedges with Florida Gas Utility, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date, period.
Is there a motion as to City Council Resolution 2022-074?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution 2022-074.
Second.
Got a motion and a second with those terms.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Ms. Ox, will you call the roll?
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Donna, we'll be in touch with you
I'm sure you will.
soon.
Okay, we have old business. We're to open a public hearing on City Council Ordinance 2022-2229 on final reading. Mr. Carolina, would you read that by title?
An ordinance of the City of Lake City, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 2 of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for amendments to the rules of city council meetings, providing for training of appointees to special standing committees, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of conflicts, providing for codification, and providing an effective date, period.
Anybody in the audience wish to speak as to this ordinance? If not, we will close the public hearing, move into adoption of City Council Ordinance 2022-2229.
Mr. Mayor, move for adoption for resolution number 2022-2229 on its final reading.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second, any discussion?
Yes, I have some discussion.
Okay.
So when we went through this the first time, when we approved it, I think I missed it, it was kind of not the whole chapter, or Article 2, Chapter 2, Article 2. There are other things in this chapter, in this article, we need to address. Section 2-34 about the agenda being 6 hours before, that needs to be addressed. There's stuff in 2-35, 2-39, 2-41, 243, 244, 246, and 247. That's just the ones off the top of my head. I think we need to have a meeting to discuss just this, and maybe at the next meeting, we could set aside time to discuss just Chapter 2, Article 2.
Okay.
Now, these items definitely need to be done. We definitely need the ethics training for the people on the advisory boards, but I think we don't want to miss this opportunity to address everything in there and try to fix it. So if we could set on the agenda for the very next meeting, maybe set aside 30 minutes to discuss just that, then we can all review it in advance. We can come and discuss it and have audience participation.
Okay. Ms. Ox, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Witt?
Yes. Okay, next is Gwen Lake Project, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Council. So we are moving forward with the Gwen Lake project. I would refer to it as a snail's pace. We have been waiting on DEP to give us some permits. I sat in on a meeting for Mr. Dial with North Florida Professional Services 2 weeks ago to get an update for him. And what we have found out is that we were required to buy mitigation credits in order to get permitting from DEP. We have had the study completed. The cost of the credits is just over $15,000. I met with Mr. Dahl and informed him of this. We went back and assured that all of phase 1 has been paid out. And Ms. Taylor in finance assured me of that this is the moving point for phase 2. In the meantime, Mr. Dahl had reviewed it and gave me the approval to proceed to purchase the mitigation credits. It is my understanding that they had to get the mitigation bank set up as a vendor, which has been done. So the mitigation credits are ready to be purchased. I believe if I check my emails, there should be a PO in there to move forward with that. According to North Florida Professional Services, as soon as the mitigation credits are purchased, they will be able to go to permit. DEP is ready to permit, and then phase 2 construction will start. Additionally, we have set up a meeting tomorrow at 1 with North Florida Professional Services, myself, and Ms. Taylor from finance to ensure that we are on track with all financial matters that the city is looking forward, so that we know exactly where we're at. That meeting is tomorrow at 1. And as far as I understand, as of tomorrow, once that PO is purchased, the mitigation credits are not purchased rather, but approved. The mitigation credits are paid for. Unless something comes out of this tomorrow that we're not aware of, DEP will issue the permits and we're ready to move forward with phase 2. So we're literally hot off the press. This should be something that will happen before the end of the day tomorrow.
So my question is, and the residents that lives around this lake, how soon will this begin?
Yeah,
Will they start seeing some dirt fly?
So I don't know that. I hope tomorrow will give me that answer. Are you okay with me calling you tomorrow?
Oh, sure, most definitely.
Okay, so what I would like to do, so I don't speak out of turn, everything procedural wise that we needed to do to check the boxes has been done up to this point tonight.
Okay.
Tomorrow, we anticipate moving forward with the financial end of it. Again, I have met with finance. Everybody, Mr. Dial, everybody has got on the same exact page. And the very #1 question we want to know is the same thing. That'll be a question for Kellen Bailey tomorrow at 1. And like I say, if that's okay, I'll give you a call as soon as I know tomorrow.
Great, appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, so we don't have an idea of what that's gonna cost, that second phase yet.
That's the
Roughly,
reason why
yeah.
we have finance going. So what I have directed North Florida Professional Services to do is to look into where we're at with all of the financial stuff as far as the grants and everything, to find that out. It was brought to my attention by Ms. Taylor that the grants versus the total cost of the project were not running in tandem. There were some issues there. So we want to find out where we're going to be at with what grants we have, what the mitigation credits cost. We know that's not coming out of a grant. So there's a cost already associated for your questions, $15,500 some change. So we know already that there's something that's not going to be grant funded. So we want to know what that looks like, where we're at dollar-wise, a time frame, what this looks like to get forward, because phase 1, it moved along pretty quickly and then it kind of fell. And one of the reasons that I was given was because of the mitigation credits. Once the study was completed, we should be able to, I see no reason on my end of it why it wouldn't be. But the two main factors we're trying to find out tomorrow is the cost and is the time.
Okay.
That work that they've already done, is that making any kind of a help on what's gonna be done in the future? Would they clean that out and?
That was my understanding, yes, sir. So it was supposed to be, everything that was done up to the end of phase 1 was supposed to be projected for phase 2 to all work together.
Okay.
Now, again, there was a couple of people involved in it for phase 1 that are no longer with us that we've got some information on. We don't have all the information. So what we're basically doing is going straight to the sources and saying we need up-to-date current information as of today. And that's what we're trying to get for everybody. And like I knew you were going to be very interested in this, we tried to get as much as we could get prior to. But when we got there, we got in the meeting, the very first thing they said is, we finally got to the point to get the permits. The permit's been the big holdup. And I said, well, what do we need to get the permit? He says, we got to get the mitigation credits. Well, we're doing the same exact study for the amphitheater. That's going to be coming in a couple of months. You're going to see that same exact situation. We're doing the study to find out what the mitigation credits we needed to purchase to move the amphitheater forward. So we've done this before. This is already in that process of everything should be working towards completion of the project.
Appreciate it, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6 and 7 is pension board, police and fire. I've received some interest. I need to get some information to somebody, and then somebody's mentioned somebody else that may show interest. I'm hoping that maybe next meeting might have 2 applications for that. So I'll move those along and get with Ms. Sykes tomorrow about the application. New business, we have ordinances done, resolution, we have City Council Resolution 2022-072. Mr. Carolina, can you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Wake City, Florida, providing for the ratification of the execution of a memorandum of understanding with local number 2288 of the International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, providing for the ratification of a voice vote of the City Council, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date period.
Is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2022-072?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval of City Council Resolution 2022-072.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Item 9 is City Council Resolution number 2022-073. Mr. Governor, will you read that by title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lake City, Florida, reappointing Clarence Cannon as the City Council appointed member of the Board of Trustees of the Lake City Municipal Police Officers Retirement Trust Fund, period.
Is there a motion as City Council Resolution 2022-073?
Mayor, move for approval of resolution number 2022-073.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Ms. Sykes, will you call the roll?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes. Any other items, discussion, possible action on request to forgive code enforcement liens in the amount of $35,550. Is there a presentation for this? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good.
City Council. This lien was brought to my attention by one of our local realtors, Mrs. Zecker. The owner of the property is Jacqueline Espenship. This lien was brought to my attention by Ms. Zecker and Joel Watley as the power of attorney for Ms. Espenship. I don't know if there's anybody here representing them, but anyway, I gave out 7 options for the council to agree on. One is forgive all fees associated with code enforcement, file a lawsuit against the owner to collect the fees, file a foreclosure suit on the owner and assume city ownership of property, forgive all accumulated costs, code enforcement fines on property but have owner pay code enforcement fees expended, forgive accumulated code enforcement fines on property but have owner pay code enforcement administrative fees expended and require property owner submit plans and obtain permits for construction within 12 months of this council action date. Number 6, have owner pay half of the fees associated with the lien, which would be a total of $17,775. And the last would have owner pay for mailing costs for a total of $13.92 and pay for costs accumulated for attorney fees to hold a special magistrate hearing totaling $600, which that would be $613.92, adding to the mailing cost. I know if you saw in your packet where they filled out the amnesty lien application, that they never received a certified letter, which that is not true. The owner of the property, Jacqueline Espenship, did appear in a special magistrate hearing of March 16th of 2021. These type of cases is a lot of manpower. It costs the city quite a bit of money. What I'm asking is for us to assume some of this lien or all of it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So I saw also here a note that from the respondent that says that you verified that they weren't notified, so you're saying that's not correct?
That's not correct.
Okay, I saw another thing too, when this went to the special magistrate in March of 2021, that the respondent was present, did give a response, and were found to be in default.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so this to me is different than what we looked at. You know, we had a whole year of, you know, amnesty. If you applied, you could get amnesty. Most of the time, we've been looking at amnesty at someone's bought a property that had a lien and they're cleaning it up. In this case, you're getting called by a realtor because now that property has value. So I bet when you went out and re-inspected, it's been fixed now, right?
Oh, yeah, it's fixed.
So after 400 days of not being fixed, now it's fixed because they figured out there's an asset that's worth about $150,000. So I would say it's in the city's best interest to collect the entire lien amount. That would be my idea. I don't know that we need to sue them. I think if they sell this, we're gonna collect it. But, do we need to file anything to certify that lien on that property?
Probably an answer for Mr. Copeland.
No, sir, that's already recorded, and by the fact that it's here, it's obviously in the public realm, and they've been notified of it.
Okay, so I don't think we need to take any legal action other than to maybe make a motion that we're in favor of collecting the full lien amount of the $33,975. Would that be a good motion?
Well, maybe we ought to give them some credit, if they've cleaned it up and done something.
Well, it took 400 days. And I don't know if y'all went through and looked at the pictures. That's a travesty that anyone was allowed to live in that house in the shape it was in. And I have no tolerance for that. And then here we are, they know this hearing's up again. They've applied for amnesty and no one showed up. I mean, I think they're just thinking that it's gonna be forgiven, and that's not what we should do. This is looking out for the city. We've got city employees we're paying to go out and collect these liens, to do this work. You look at the reports, the multiple reports we have here, and how are you renting a house that doesn't have heat? I mean, that's not even, I don't understand that. I know you had something, I didn't mean to cut in.
Well, do you have any idea or perception of what the actual cost it was to the city? I mean, what of our losses, administrative cost and
Well, you're looking at
in the
administrative
absence of
cost,
the fine?
mailing cost, I really can't give you an estimate about how much it would be. Because I can tell you right now, this case hadn't been looked at in a while because it was brought to my attention.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a comment?
Sure.
There, so I think the cost is important to know, but the reason the fine's what it is to get people to do what they're supposed to do. So March of 21, which is over a year and 3 months ago, the respondent was in front of a judge and testified, and it wasn't fixed within the 30 days they had compliance. So if you look at that, they went to court and had 30 days. So I don't know if we want to start doing everything on cost, we should change that ordinance and only collect costs. But I think this is something that's going to come back and say, hey, people are serious about collecting, and they'll clean their stuff up. And that's what needs to happen. When this went to the magistrate and that 30 days went by, at the end of 30 days, it should have been done.
That's correct.
Really, it should have went to the magistrate. When they got that first notice, they should have went ahead and started fixing it. So, again, I'm going to be in favor of collecting the full amount.
Just to take this case from start to finish, you're looking at least 6 weeks, counting the special magistrate hearing, the certified mailing that we had to send to them, which requires twice. And then I had to send another certified mail for hearings for the special magistrate.
Well, and looking at the pictures, not to mention you sent people into dangerous areas that we're paying, I would think we're paying some kind of workman's comp insurance. I mean, there's a lot of ancillary soft costs on that just to do this.
Correct.
And then you've got to pay an agent to go out and do it. I mean, there's real costs, but if we always say we'll cut it, then there's no incentive to comply.
Yeah. One other thing I have to say is, the manpower that we take into these cases and the time, the money, a lot of these liens are being passed, which my opinion is to collect these fines. That shows y'all have that option of what y'all want to do. That's just my opinion.
Well, that's why I raised that question, to get a feeling, and it was not only just the monetary, $13 or whatever it was, the monetary portion of it.
Yes, sir.
But did you have a feel for all of our
Right.
But we also, as you said, we spent a lot of manpower hours
Correct.
involved in that. And
Correct.
for me, that equates to something.
Yes, sir, it does.
That's right.
From looking at, and I read this from beginning to the end, I'm like Mr. Sampson, I don't have a feel for waiving this total $35,000 for her because of what he's already said, what happened. She came to the hearing, somebody did, and they heard what the magistrate said, and that was over a year ago, and they didn't do anything.
Correct.
You know, and so I think some kind of penalty needs to be applied, but, you know, whether it should be the $35,000 or not, you know, I don't know, and that's why I asked that question for a feel of what total the city had involved in it in terms of our manpower hours as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mayor, may I speak to this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Council, the statute specifically states that the goal here is compliance and to get a property into compliance. The property is now in compliance. The U.S. Constitution has a provision on excessive government fines levied on citizens' property. So if the council is going to do nothing, then I think the council should just let this item die on the table. And then that allows the owner and any potential buyer to come back to the council and try to negotiate something. I've seen it many times where the seller or the owner or both of them, with or without an agent, come and try to work something out with a council. And we saw it probably 2 years ago where someone came in and wanted some relief for property over there on the way to BFO Brady's. And so instead of making an affirmative motion to stay where you're at, you don't need to make a motion, you're already there. And that way the council will not have any binding action that shows that you are not willing to negotiate because the property's already in compliance and you'll be compliant with the Constitution.
Mr. Mayor, I have another question.
Whatever you like to do, but if you don't want to do anything, then just let the item die instead of passing a motion.
So I have another question. Did they pull permits to get this thing back up to code? Because I didn't see any permit. I saw one permit for plumbing.
One permit for public plumbing, that was it.
So what about the roof damage? None of that got permitted? It's just maybe they fixed it?
They
Yeah,
fixed it on their own.
yeah. I say we let it die, but I'm for collecting it.
Okay. All right, we'll move along. Discussion, possible action, there's a meeting on August 1st, me and Mr. Hill will be out of town. We have a, meeting on Thursday, August the 4th for the evaluation, and my recommendation would be to do a meeting that night. I think we need a meeting, so is everybody agreement to do it that night? Okay. And Donna, that gets us in compliance with what you need to do, okay? If everybody's in agreement with that, we will do that. I don't think we need a motion for that. Discussion of possible action, staff recommendation to approve proposed tentative millage rate. Ms. Duncan.
Council, you should have before you in your packet, what I provided for the certification of the taxable value. I gave you two options here, and the two options were that we can stay with the 4.9 millage rate that we currently have, or you can go back to the rollback rate. So and this is primarily because we have to take it to the county in order to certify back to them that that's the rate that we're going to use. Once again, as always before, if you come back later and you decide that rate you want to adjust it, you can only adjust it downwards, you can't go above that. So the question is whether or not you want to go with the 4.9, which is our current rate, or the rollback rate, which is 4.5185.
I recommend that at this point, we do the 4.9, and then if we can, we go back. But like she said, we can't go up, we can only go backwards.
Yeah, no, that would be my recommendation, to stay with the 4.9, and if we have to, we come back down.
Yeah.
That would be my recommendation as well.
We need a motion on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion to propose the rate of 4.9 meals.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Ms. Fox, you call the roll.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yes, and then item 13 is the schedule.
And primarily on the schedule, of course, I've adjusted it for that August 4th date because I had it set initially for August 1st, and I guess you're going to be meeting then. So if anybody has any issues with any of these dates on there, if you've had an opportunity to look at it and you've got any questions or concerns, what I do when I set the schedule up is I'm primarily concerned with the schedule being in line with what I have to do with, number one, with fire special assessment, and also for the trim, because we have deadlines for all of those things. And so therefore, I try to make it so that I make sure we get our advertising the way that it's supposed to be, within the time that it's supposed to be. And then also that those dates are the dates that you're gonna be available to actually go over all this stuff. And if you think you have an issue with any of those dates, I just need to know it now. And of course, we also have to go inside because we have to make sure that our dates do not conflict with the Board of County Commissioners or the school.
Okay. Anybody got a problem with that? You know, make a recommendation or a motion to accept those dates?
I don't have a problem with it at the end of the day.
Okay, is there a motion? Mr. Sampson, motion, you second?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Saxon, you call the roll.
Mr. Sampson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Mayor Webb?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that concludes everything. Unless there's some comments of council.
On last Thursday, I took it upon myself to just ride out to the airport, see how things was going. Spoke with Ms. Florence. She assured me that things was going well. But I still have concern about the lease agreement with HACO. And she spoke with, we talked about it, and can't really talk about it at the moment, but we myself is interested in the outcome of this lease agreement. So with saying that, I will be back in touch with Ms. Florence to get them to the table. And from my understanding, they've been kind of like dragging their feet. But we are concerned about what's going on with HACO. And that's all I have, man.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll be adjourned. Thank y'all for coming.